Good morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. This morning, of course, we're going to bring in perspectives. And as always, we try to get an unusual personality. Assiduously stay away from the politicians. We like to placate all of our listeners, not anybody ticked off this morning with politics, so we won't do that. Judy K., your partner missed out on a lot of sleep last night. Went to bed way late. Went down to Springfield again to welcome the boys who went on the honor flight, welcome them home.
Good for you. I
went through the good graces of Aaron and Joyce Leisman, who are kind enough to haul the old fellow's body down there on those nights that the honor flight goes out to Washington. And their son Adam is in charge of the flight and does a whale of a job. So I just want to tip my hat to Joyce, the Monsieur how am I going to say this? Anyway, she's an excellent masseur, or masseuse, whatever the case may be, working for Abraham Lincoln Memorial Hospital recovery units there. And Aaron is a tax expert, so we appreciate very much being taken down there. Big crowd, nice crowd turned out for those old boys. I don't know why I put it in that context. They're all my friends, all those old boys that went.
Well,
anyway.
You can't be 29 and have been in World War II.
Now, I want to say something about Aaron and Joyce Leisman. They go to the dollar stores, and she buys little flags, and they take them down, bunches of them, and each of them man a door going into the terminal there, and they sell these flags. They just donate whatever, people donate whatever they want to. That's nice of them.
Well, yeah, and then does the crowd stand and wave the flags?
Yeah. Well, they're little hand flags, you know. It's very nice. And what I get a kick out of watching these little rugrats running around with waving the flags, and they don't know where they are, let alone why they're there.
Oh, right.
But, it's fun. They go up shaking hands with people they don't know at all. So it was a nice evening. We thank them very, very much. We also should extend a kudo to our guest, whom you will introduce in just a second or two, if I shut up, who stepped into the breach at the last minute. Our friend Joe Shaler had a medical problem. I'm not going to talk about that for public release. He just had a problem in his family, and it was not easy, not possible for him to be with us today, he and Melanie. So we appreciate our guest stepping in, and we wish Joe and Melanie well while we're at that. So go right ahead and introduce this young man who's become a kind of a favorite of mine.
And rightly so. Adam Quine is, I'm going to say the new minister because I've been there longer than you have at First Presbyterian Church in Lincoln, America. And he's been a real asset to our church. He gets ideas that I think are just absolutely wonderful. And he's met a young lady whose name is Laura Elliott, and he was explaining to her an idea he had. And Adam, I think it's best if you go ahead and share your idea with our listeners as well, and then we'll talk about how important something like this is for youngsters.
Yeah, you got it. First, Bill and others who served in World War II, y'all are definitely the greatest
Thank you, sir.
generation, and I admire you all so much and for the bravery you
thank you very much on behalf of all of them. You know, we're getting out of here pretty fast every day, but about 300 of us a day are leaving us.
Y'all are
for the
living legends, and so we need to celebrate y'all as much as we can. But that said, so I had this idea a while back as a pastor trying to plan events for children and youth. It's darn near impossible to gets youth to show up on a consistent basis because they're so involved in everything else. No longer do they play on just one sports team, but they play on 2 or 3 on top of piano lessons and drama club and 4-H club and all the other things their parents want them to be a part of, which is great. The more experience, the better. But where and when do the kids have time to rest, to play? Remember going outside and playing and making up games before.
And being a kid.
And being a kid. So I thought, as a former athlete myself, and someone who was involved with multiple clubs in college, one thing I wish I learned growing up was how to pause, how to rest,
just sit down and take
just
it easy,
relax, where an adult's not telling me what to do, where I'm not forced to do homework or something, but I can just be a kid for a little bit. So I always wanted to start a center for something, and it just happened to be that community and creativity are things that really give me life. And so I put down on paper, with the help of some friends, a dream, and I filled out a grant application through the Presbyterian of Great Rivers, which was endorsed by my session at First Presbyterian Church. And I had probably 6 or 7 parishioners help write it as well. And I received a $5,000 grant to use for the development of this program. And it sat unused, and I thought, well, before we start using it for windows and doors and fixing parking lots, I said, we better spend it for what it's meant for. And so I happened to meet Laura Elliott, who has a beautiful approach to life, who is an artist, a poet, a musician, and one who's trained in the healing arts. And I said, so I have this idea, and I want to try it. But the thing is, my leadership style oftentimes frustrates people in that I'm one of those people who has an idea, and I say, let's try it and see what works. While some folks enjoy, well, we need a meeting to set up a meeting so that we can plan for a meeting when we can plan the ultimate.
To
and
make
by
sure the meeting goes on time.
And by the time all the committee meetings happen, it's time for retirement or something. So Laura has been, she's willing to take that risk with me, and being an artist, she understands that it's not necessarily the end product that's important, but it's the process. And so I said, how about you help me? She said, okay. And so in May, she publicized and pushed this community center. And we said, we're going to start first Thursday in June. And so we've been doing it now for a week. And it's really cool to kind of see our ideas and hopes play out.
And it follows on the heels of the meal program for District 27 at the junior high, which is right in First Presbyterian's backyard.
Exactly, right across the alley. And the idea is that, there are a lot of activities going on in the summer. There's basketball camps, baseball camps, band camp, camps for campers, I would imagine, you name it. And we thought, our church has a great space that is underutilized, and why not open it up for kids 6th through 8th grade, and let them come and gain some experience of learning how to talk about themselves, learning healthy boundaries about use of time. Because I can't tell you how many colleagues I have that are burnt out of their work. They've just been going, and that they don't take vacation time. They don't rest. And I would hate to see another generation kind of succumb to that lack of the inexperience or not having the tools for self-care.
What are the age groups of youngsters who participate in this program, Adam?
So it's 6th through 8th grade, junior high students.
That is, I think you are right on the money there.
And the reason why we went with that is because I'm also involved in town with some other groups through the Abraham Lincoln Memorial Hospital. One being a group that's focusing on kind of the development of youth and teenagers in Lincoln and Logan County. And they recognize that there are a lot of opportunities for 5th grade and younger. And there's a lot of opportunities for high school. And there's not as many for that 6th, 7th, and 8th grade group. So I thought, well, here's an opportunity for us to kind of step in and offer something for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, because that's the season in life where you're not sure where you belong. Some of us already know we're an athlete. Some of us, we know that we're with this group, but there are a lot of us who are thinking, I don't know where I'm supposed to be right now. And as you all know, bullying is probably at its, I can't even imagine growing up now with internet bullying and everything else. So we're trying to bring a space where children these junior high students can come and say, this is who I am. And we're going to say, we're glad that's who you are. And we're not going to judge you.
I don't recall my junior high years as being
You spent them in detention.
as having been very fun. You're not sure whether you're fish or fowl, and you think everybody thinks I'm stupid. Everybody thinks I'm ugly. And look at her, she'll probably be the homecoming queen. And you're just at 6s and 7s most of the time. Now you throw bullying into it when you're already beating yourself up.
Right.
That's just what you need. Like you need another eyebrow.
You used a term I hadn't heard at all. I thought I was out there. Internet bowling?
No, bullying. Bullying.
Oh, bullying.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sure internet's bowling's out there, though.
I'll adjust my hearing aids a little more. No, I thought,
Yeah.
what was that? I had no idea.
I think you hit the nail right on the head here, choosing that age group. And somehow letting them in on the secret that to be yourself is okay. We can't all be the same person. How dull that would be.
Right. Yeah, and the idea also came after I've had a conversation with a couple of junior high students where they were already mentioning college plans, right? I mean, these are junior high students already thinking about what happens after high school.
Yeah.
I remember being in 7th grade thinking like, what am I going to do when I get home from school, let alone like next year? And so rather than trying to, tell them, oh, don't think like that, or we're hoping to provide them opportunities for them to learn that, okay, if you want to think like that, let us give you a lot of options of what you can be when you grow up, right? So we've had a musician from in town, a local musician, come in last week and shared with the students why they became a guitar player and how they became a guitar player. This week we have a gentleman who's going to come and lead us in Taekwondo and talk about harnessing energy and discipline in that way. I've got an
interesting program. May I interject just
please do.
Scott Brown, associated with the Sheriff's Department for many years, has had this Taekwondo things established for a long time now. Does a whale of I don't know a doggone thing about it. Martial arts of some sort. Scott just does a whale of a job with these youngsters, and that's quite a program around here.
Yeah, and we're grateful he's going to come and participate in our opportunity, and we've got someone who writes short stories, an author who writes short stories lined up. We've got a cook. There's a person in my church who loves to cook who said that they'd come in and kind of do a little teaching class. So we're looking for anybody. They don't have to be Presbyterian, because one thing we need to know about our small towns is that if we don't start coming together, we're not going to like the results. So if you have a gift, a special gift that you want to share with students for 30 minutes, contact us.
Oh, how smart and how true. You know, we all stand together or we all fall down alone. And our town isn't growing by leaps and bounds, so we're not apt to become Bloomington or Springfield at all. So if we could just get along, the whole world would be better.
Our town has a few really good leaders. Met a couple of them last night, by the way, down at the welcome home for the honor flight. Entrepreneur, see the USA and the Chevrolet guy, Chris Grau, and his brother-in-law. My gosh, I just absolutely went.
Brad Nichols?
I went absolutely.
Brad Nichols?
Yes, I went absolutely dead blank. And I'm still there. I think
Brad Nichols.
You better examine my contract again. see about what it's here. Brad Nichols. He and Chris were down there, which I appreciated very much, seeing those young men down there. And they went for the express purpose of welcoming home a mutual acquaintance of theirs, which is very nice. People do those things. And I looked up, and there Brad and Chris were. Chris even offered to go get me a glass of water, and I said I'd rather have a beer, but
Take what you can get, huh?
Yeah, take what you can get. Anyway, they kind of represent what we have in our community. Can-do people who don't mind stepping to the plate and swing a heavy bat often.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we have lots of people like that. And I think everything in the world is the good news and the bad news all at once, you know. We're not exactly having a growth spurt in the big city of Lincoln, America here. But it's a great place to raise your family because they have these kinds of opportunities, such as you're offering, Adam. And what a blessing for the kids that attend. If somehow you can find the key that unlocks their ability drawer to see that, okay, so you're not going to be an opera star, but by golly, you've got a lot to offer, you know?
Right.
We have a key to unlock up here, and it's called the commercial key. And we're going to open that rascal right now and pay obeisance to our sponsors, and then we'll be right back in the studios. Go right ahead, Mr. Rash. And right back in the studios here live. The program is Viewpoint. Each Wednesday morning, 8:15 to 0900 hours. Our guest this morning, a quick substitute. We appreciate your stepping in here, Adam. Reverend Adam Quine, Presbyterian Church, who is kind of a mover and shaker down there in the corner. You know, they have my cradle certificate down there on display. I want you to know that, Mrs.
See?
Busby.
That's right.
95-year-old guy got his cradle roll certificate on display. That's a big deal. Anyway, Adam has come up with a new program for youngsters. Sounds very interesting. Reaching out to kids who have a little extra time on their hands.
That's right.
You know, my father wanted apparently was addicted by the theorem that idle hands are the devil's workshop.
Yes.
I didn't have much idle time. He had things for us to do all the time. And moreover, we have a nice confectionery here in town. They call it Marcucci's, down on the courthouse square there. And it was a gathering place for all the high school boys, the in boys to go, and or so they thought. And it was a very nice place. Nothing wrong with it at all. It was a confectionery. Served Cokes for a nickel apiece. And I was forbidden to loaf there.
Oh.
Only because he says there's nothing wrong. That's a nice place. But he says, you've got more important things to do than just sit. Mm-hmm. So I had some pretty good jurisdiction there. Let's go back to this program for the First Presbyterian Church. I asked Adam how many participants in it so far. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so we've been doing it for what'll be a week today, and we've had 7 or 8 kids come by. Most of them return, which is great. It's starting to form a really good foundation and a community. I just think that it's still one of those secrets in town. After that free lunch at the junior high, just walk half a block across the alley to First Presbyterian Church and ascend up the stairs, and you'll be in our youth room where we have a ping pong table, a pool table, really comfy couches, some guitars, and snacks. So
Teaching those kids to play pool? My God.
I know, right? Us Presbyterians, I tell you what. Between the pool and we even have an electric guitar, watch out. And they call us the Frozen Chosen, right?
Yeah, right. What do they know? Now, what are some of the ideas that you've discussed amongst yourself on the committee for future guests that you'd like to have? That, for instance, Laura Elliott is an awful well-rounded girl. My gosh, she's a poet. She's an artist.
Yeah, poet, artist, musician. She's been trained in the healing arts and does a lot with kind of the energy that we have, and with some of that healing and kind of therapeutic type stuff. So she's there daily to lead the kids in breathing or some kind of artistic expression. Moving forward, other opportunities, because I learned growing up, and again, coming from my own experience, I played baseball in high school. I was fortunate enough to play baseball in college at Greenville College. And then when I graduated from college,
That's it.
I wasn't, going to make it to the pros. And so all those years spent playing baseball, going to baseball camp after baseball camp. Well, now what?
Oh, dear.
No one cares that you
Is
play
there life
Division
after
III
baseball?
So here, Kirby, you played third baseman at Greenville College.
Yeah, right, exactly. And that was a bit of an adjustment for me. And as I look back, I'm thinking, my parents did great with us boys when we were growing up, getting us involved and such. But one thing I wish I had more exposure to were the arts. My brothers all got to play the piano. They took piano lessons, but by the time the fourth one got around, it was, we're just going to drag him along to whatever else they're doing, right? So
My mother tried that with me, and Helen Dawson, the teacher, said, Edna, you're wasting your money and my time. So there went my piano lessons.
So this program is simply, we want to expose the kids to different things, different styles of art, painting, poetry, writing, while also being mindful of our bodies, and that, you only get one body, and it's important that you take care of it. And so, while those 72-ounce soda drinks at the gas station are only 89 cents, it can do a lot of damage to you long term. So we're trying to have a holistic approach while also teaching the kids some practices, spiritual practices that can kind of root them, center them, ground them as they go forward. Because as I'm learning, I'm 34 years old, and let me tell you, I feel all 34 years of it. I'm learning that sometimes it doesn't get easier. That, each year there's a new kind of layer to adulthood that you just don't really think of growing up. And so I'm grateful that I've had experiences and been around people who have taught me practices that can help me kind of get outside of myself when I get really anxious or overwhelmed and worried. And that's kind of what we want to help with these 6th, 7th, and 8th graders who are already full of angst, trying to figure out what's going on with their bodies. Who are they? Why is the world changing so fast? And what's my role in it? And ideally, what I would love this program to be would be, for instance, two seasoned, wise people like you all coming and sharing an afternoon with us and just telling your story. Because one thing I know that's kind of escaping us in our society with all the advancing social media platforms is the one-on-one kind of narrative sharing. So for you, Bill, to tell your story to these 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that only think of the greatest generation as something they read in a history book, maybe, I think that's more important than, any sports camp or activity that we could ever provide.
And it makes it live
Right.
for them.
Right.
Another thing, if I may.
You may, because you own half the show.
Oh, okay. The church is a boon to parents. I'm sure mine said to themselves every day of the world that I get so sick and tired of her saying this and that and the other thing. And my mother is always telling me what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing, and oy, oy, oy. Well, here you have a whole system that backs you up. It isn't that my mother is flaming crazy. It's that these things that you're supposed to learn are a benefit to you. You don't cheat. You don't steal. You don't belittle. You don't bully.
Right.
And if you have a system that backs you up on this kind of thing, I think it's a wonderful help to parenting.
The problem is, in society, is we have a lot of parents who do not pass on those characteristics to their children. And that's unfortunate, but that's the fact of the matter is.
Sure.
A lot of folks have no business being parents. They just became parents, boom. And those folks who miss out on that sort of advisory counseling daily, they're the losers. So perhaps there's a niche for folks like in that particular category that find themselves in this program about which we're talking this morning.
Yeah, and I get to thinking, one of my favorite lines from a movie, it's from Shawshank Redemption. It's he says, one of the characters says, "Get busy living or get busy dying." And the church, while this program is at First Presbyterian Church, it's not necessarily a Presbyterian program. And I say that because the church has to adapt to the changing times. What the program style that worked in the 50s and 60s when mainline denominations were at their highest, it's not going to work anymore. Like I said, I have nieces and nephews who have soccer at 8 a.m. on a Sunday, and then they're changing clothes for baseball at 10 a.m. that same morning.
Yes.
So this is a chance for our church and for our community to have a space where kids can come and learn some of these basic skills on how to engage not only in a loving way with each other, but also themselves, where they're being bombarded with messages of this is actually what you should look like, or this is actually what you should be, when in fact, I believe that God wants us to be ourselves. And the last thing we need to be doing to children is, as you said, adding one more layer of stress or a third eyebrow to an already kind of confusing world that they grow up in.
And it doesn't look like it's going to get any easier.
No, it doesn't. And that's why if we can equip some students now to learn to be able to engage with each other in a manner that's affirming and that doesn't degrade people, I think that we will be much better off than where we are now in some capacities. Us oldies, the three of us, we can learn something from these young kids, and I think we need to remember that ourselves. That
I think you're right on the money.
While we have a lot to offer, there's something about just listening to and seeing the imagination of children kind of unfold before us to remind us that, we were once imaginative and young too.
I don't know if my mother ever said that she was glad she wasn't raising kids today. But I know I've said to myself a lot of times as I watched my children raise their children who are raising their children, today's tough.
It is. It is. And our program, the Center for Community and Creativity, is our approach is we see you and let us help out. We're not going to try and figure out your backstory. We'll let that unfold as you want to tell us. But we're here. We have something we want to give to you and your family, and it's free.
And the best thing you can give is acceptance. At that age, I really think, my memories of being that age are a little dim at this point, but they aren't pretty.
Adam,
it's a tough one.
Oh,
time.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I
You go.
stepped right over your line. Sorry about that.
You go, boss.
How would Mrs. Smith find out about how to get Johnny or Mary enrolled or exposed to this program?
You can call the church office, First Presbyterian Church office, at 217-732-6141. Email the church office at office@preslincoln.org, or visit us on Facebook, First Presbyterian Church of Lincoln, Illinois. I put up a lot of obnoxious information about what's going on and occasional bad joke or two. But
I'll check you out.
Yeah,
I haven't friended, or they haven't friended me. I don't know how they think about Episcopalians. I have no idea. I might have to find out.
Father Mark, he's all right. He's a good egg.
Yes, he is. He's there again. A gentleman who was in the business world as an adult and found a calling to serve his Lord. And by Jove, he does a whale of a job as an Episcopalian priest. So we're glad to have Mark Evans and Sandy with us, round out a good solid group. And I noticed there's a trend towards more of an ecumenical basis, Adam, between some of the churches in town. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Learn more about how the St. John's people worship, or the folks at the First Pres worship, and those of us who light candles, how we worship. So there's a difference, you know.
That's right. And not to, I guess if I can't plug this, then y'all can edit it out. But tonight,
I think you can't. I think you should.
Okay, tonight
Give you a carte blanche.
is our second of 4 discussion titled "What Makes Us Who We Are," and it is a program that's put together by St. John UCC in Lincoln, Trinity Episcopal Church there in Lincoln, First Pres, and Holy Family, where the clergy are coming together and inviting all the congregations, the members of the congregations, to come and listen to what makes us who we are. So last month we were at St. John's, and Reverend Lori Hill told us about what the UCC denomination's all about. Tonight we're at First Pres, 301 Pekin Street at 7 p.m. and you'll get to hear me explain what it means to be Presbyterian, and you can ask questions. And the whole point is there's so much out there that divides us, and we are well aware that we're different, that there's a lot that separates us. So let us focus on what unites us. And us mainline folk, we need to stick together, and we need to realize that we're kind of all in the same boat, paling out water as we see it rising around our
Some of our boats have a little more water in them than others.
That's
Some
right.
of us have to be a little harder.
And next meeting in July will be at Trinity, and then I believe the last meeting will be in August at Holy Family. So it's our way of witnessing to the community that we can celebrate being our diversity, and that our unity can come in saying, this is who we are, and we're glad that you are who you are. So let's.
There's no worse. There's no better.
Right.
It's just we're
In
all in the
diversity,
same
there's
boat.
unity.
Exactly.
Yes. Very
I think
good.
there's a sermon in that.
Speaking of sermons, I'd like to go to commercials. Would you mind giving a commercial for the barbecue. It's kind of world famous.
Oh yes,
That is that.
the world famous pork barbecue of First Presbyterian Church, which is the third Wednesday in July. That date currently escapes me.
26th.
That might
And
be
it's
the
a
fourth
takeaway as well as a
I
sit
think
down.
I lied.
It's a
Jim,
takeaway as well as a
Jim-
sit down.
The
24th.
The 24th of
July.
yeah. It is
Third or fourth?
third.
Be the 17th.
The 17th of July from 4:30 to 7, I think. You can come in and have a seat in our Christian Ed building and eat some pork barbecue, or you can pick it up and come in on the Ottawa Street entrance, grab you some pork barbecue and homemade dessert,
Yes.
which is the real reason why
Always
people
very
come,
good.
I think.
Always.
Yes.
And return to your home and watch the Cubs win another ball game or lose one, as
I knew I
the
liked
case
this
has
boy
been.
for some reason.
He's in the wrong building.
You realize, of course, you have some staunch Cardinal fans in your congregation.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. It's not a very closely guarded secret in this room.
Adam, where was your home before you came to Lincoln?
Well, I grew up, born and raised in Peoria, Illinois. After college, graduating from Greenville College, which is now Greenville University in Greenville, Illinois, I spent 6 years in Kentucky, where I was a youth director in Western Kentucky, and then 3 years in seminary in Louisville, Kentucky. And I came here to Lincoln after Louisville, and been here. It'll be 6 years, July 1st. So.
Did you ride horses when you were down in Kentucky?
No, I wanted to, but I was too tall.
Excuses.
I've heard some of that's about as lame as you're going to get.
You know, my father-in-law bred and raised and trained horses
Yeah.
his whole life. So my kids were on horseback when they were hardly able to stretch their legs over the top of the horse. But I've managed to avoid that in my life.
I love horses, and
They're beautiful.
they're intimidating as all get out. But,
Intimidating as all get out.
but
We were on a family trail ride up in Wisconsin one time, commercial stables. Jean got thrown off, and her grandson, Christopher, bailed out and says, "That's all for me," and went back, walked back. That was all for him, and he meant it. He walked back to the stables. He wasn't going to get back on it. I don't think he has since.
And he's led a full life,
Yeah.
so it worked. Yeah. Well, if somebody who's listening this morning has a very interesting part of their life that would serve to help kids in 6th through 8th grade, let them call you at 732-4161.
6141.
I have
How about this?
dyslexia.
217-732-6141.
There you go. Please and thank you. And they could talk to you or to the church secretary and Mrs. Thomas and plead their case, and maybe they could be worked in, and that would be good.
Yeah.
And I think you better talk to Bill about the greatest generation.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. One last thing is that in a lot of reading and research I've done and working with students, one thing that keeps coming up as a theme that what children want, students want, is they don't want, the fancy bands, and they don't want the fancy activities. That helps. But the thing they want the most is presence. They want somebody to listen to them and somebody to just
Sit down and talk.
to be with them, rather than saying, you need to do this. They get that every day.
And the reason for that is something you touched on early on, and that is that parents and parents are tired because we and the generation below us were always taught you better be somebody. Make up your mind who you want to be and head in that direction, And so we don't have a lot of people who can be comfortable with themselves.
And that's still important. Don't get me wrong.
is.
We want our children to the students to navigate down that path, but to also say you don't have to have it all figured out right now.
Really? Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Yeah. A lot of people, when they get to college, they may have thought for 15 years they were going to be this person, and now all of a sudden, by George, that's not right. I'm going to be that person. So we're not in a big hurry in 6th grade, okay?
6th, 7th, and 8th grade. That's a pretty formative group.
Oh, gosh.
That's very formative. So that may be an opportunity for some youngster who's kind of maybe feels a little lost for whatever reason, out of the swing, whatever, to be included. So that's a nice program you have going here, Reverend.
Thank you.
Very, very nice. Reverend Adam Quine, we appreciate very much your being with us. We more appreciate the fact that you were willing to just jump in and come and join us this morning at the
Bless
last
your
minute. I feel badly about Joe, and I'm very concerned about that. I'm going to have to check on that. But here again, the Presby stepped up, grabbed a big bat, and swung.
That's our man.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, we close with saying I always kind of like to impart, hope somebody will pay attention to it one of these days. Be the reason somebody smiled today. Thank you, Reverend Adam Quine.